Hello everybody. So if you're seeing this, congratulations, you survived the worst day since 2022 and I'm with you. That's why I want to make this video. Actually, it's not just the Nasdaq who's had the worst day. The S&P also has had the worst day, tumbles the most since 2022. It seems like 2024 will be a year like 2020 and 2022. CNBC is loving this. They're breaking headlines. I even logged in today to the TuneIn app to hear about the fear, and they were just bashing Tesla, thinking, oh, nobody's going to buy a Tesla because they're going to get their cars keyed. CNBC was having a field day today, criticizing growth stocks, loving the old world, loving the old stuff, and that's why the Nasdaq was down at 1.5%, nearly 5%. Very, very ugly day. And of course, the chief reason for this drop, obviously, is the tariff and the fears of the tariff, and then second order level effects as to what the tariffs could do. Could they trigger a recession? Could they trigger something worse? But you know, that's indirect reasoning. The direct reasoning, oh, is the tariff hurting the stock? Is the tariffs hurting your stock? You know, how many steps do you have to get through your reasoning to actually say the tariffs are going to lead to a recession? I've covered that before in my video. The only thing we can know for sure is that the tariffs, you know, the market doesn't like the tariffs, which is why companies that have very little to do with tariffs were totally down today. Nvidia, I'm not aware of Taiwan at risk of tariffs right now. Nvidia was down 27% since the height in January. Google was down 19%. They don't sell physical goods. Why is Google down? Meta was down 90%. They don't sell physical stuff. Why is Google down? Why is Meta down? Sofi not only doesn't sell anything physical, but they're only in the US. They're down 37% since January. Look at Robinhood, down 44% since February 14. They're only in the US. What is going on? And then Bitcoin and Microstrategy, what did they do? What did anything that they do have anything to do with tariffs? Probably nothing at all. These stocks have nothing at all to do with tariffs, yet they are dropping. You could argue Nvidia, maybe there's a far fear, maybe 27, 28 about Taiwan Summit, but even then, like, this is not a big conversation for the stock. Tariffs is a non-existent conversation. Let's take a random stock, though, and let's talk about a random stock who would be, for example, very much impacted by tariffs. How about imported auto parts, you know, like windshield wipers and all that sort of stuff. Let's talk about imported auto parts, right? That's impacted a lot by tariffs. What's going on with a stock like AutoZone and O'Reilly? Oh, AutoZone, O'Reilly, and for most of the day, Ford too. They were up today. Today they were up. Today Ford was up, right? A company whose factories literally shut down because of tariffs was up. And if you look at, let's say AutoZone, let's talk about AutoZone or O'Reilly, right? They don't import any parts from abroad, right? They're not at risk at all. And that's not an issue with Trump at all, right? Of course not. They import everything. They import a bunch of stuff. This is ridiculous. They're in physical retail. Physical retail is the future, isn't it? Everybody buys their auto part at AutoZone or O'Reilly. Nobody buys them at Walmart or at Amazon. People love to pay 50% extra for good service, face-to-face conversation, especially younger people under 30. They love to pay extra for face-to-face conversation. They're not likely to talk to an AI at all. And that 12 billion, 8 billion, that's not a problem. May I point out, Sears was really helped out by the focus on physical face-to-face customer service. No one cares about the customer centricity of an app like Amazon or a website like Amazon, and their well-managed enterprise. Research O'Reilly, research AutoZone, well-managed enterprise. Wall Street loves O'Reilly and AutoZone until they seemingly fall out of nowhere, just like Walgreens. I was reading analysis about Walgreens back in 2015, 2014, Walgreens was going to be amazing. They were going to launch clinic. It was going to be the future of a one-stop shop. What happened to Walgreens? It's a quasi-bankruptcy. It's essentially a bankruptcy. They got bought out by private capital who's just going to strip them for parts. The same is true for Ford, right? Ford is not trapped with dealerships who don't want to do the strategy. They're not trapped with $161 billion of debt and only $39 billion of capital. Are they? Are they? Of course they are. Of course they are. And, people even criticize Tesla. As far as I'm concerned, I look at the ranking on the best-selling electric trucks. It's still the Tesla Cybertruck. Despite people criticizing the Tesla Cybertruck, the best-selling electric truck is the Tesla Cybertruck. Sorry, F-150 Lightning. So anyways, this makes absolutely no sense to me. And I could go on. So let's talk about the Tesla massacre now. Let's talk about the Tesla massacre, because Tesla was definitely something that CNBC today was excited about. I didn't listen to Fox Business. I'm sure Fox Business probably mentioned a thing or two about that. CNBC was just going on and on and on about that today. It was funny to listen to almost how they got excited. CNBC got excited about vandalism today. There's a rise in vandalism. So let's talk about that. Tesla is a big position for me. As you know, it doesn't feel good. It definitely doesn't feel good. Down 16% day. I don't think a company's valuation can move this high in a single day. This is all an illusion. This is all the madness of the market. By the way, I'm up nicely on Tesla. I think a lot of people on this channel are up nicely on Tesla. You may remember the glorious Christmas 2022 and early 2023 when we had that sell, the stock went down to 100. I was starting buying at 180 and 140. I remember going heavy at 140. Many of us, and of course those of us earlier than that, are still way up on Tesla, but it doesn't feel as good as the 3 to 4x we were up on, two months, not even 2 months, 1 month ago. So anyways, the market doesn't like Tesla today. What is the market telling you? The market is telling you they like Exxon, they like Chevron. Go figure. Utilities, the cost of oil is on the decline, right? Right here where I'm at in Texas, it's like $2.29 a gallon. These companies are at a price that is a commodity, that is dictated by an international market. Anyways, it makes so little sense to me. CNBC is having the best day ever talking about, will people, this was literally a topic this afternoon on CNBC, will people stop buying Teslas out of fear of their cars being keyed, right? This is so ridiculous, this form of thinking, I cannot even begin to consider. When you consider that the valuation of Tesla has nothing to do with the cars, it's got everything to do with a robotaxi and FSD, and you have the media literally glorifying vandalism, right? And by the way, a modern car, this is less likely to happen on a modern car because you're going to have the cameras turned on and there's going to be a recording of you, and you can look it up online, recording of people vandalizing Teslas. Then you become an online celebrity. Anyways, the market is laughing at Tesla, and I am laughing at what the market thinks is good today, because when I look at Tesla and when I look at the long-term return, which is what should matter to the long-term investor, when I look at Tesla past 15 years, Tesla is up 41.5% every year on average. 10,000 in 2010 would have yielded 1.6 million, and that's after the epic drop that we've had in the stock price the past 3 to 4 weeks. Exxon, you had put $10,000 in Exxon in 2010, you would have $33,000 today. Exxon did 8% average annual return over the past 15 years. That is significantly less than the S&P, and that is even more significantly less than the Nasdaq. And of course, the Nasdaq is the benchmark that I use on this channel. The Musk interests are getting attacked all over, and the media is loving it, talking also about the X cyber attack. I don't know about you, but I didn't have access to X this morning. It was annoying, mostly because Grok was not available, and I wanted to use Grok because if you follow Grok, it seems to be really taking over and giving a run for its money to OpenAI, and a lot of people are switching to Grok, which is crazy. Anyways, people burning Cybertrucks entirely ridiculous. One should never glorify vandalism. There's a lot of cars that I find very ugly and that I don't like when I drive around, and I never wish that anybody either keys them or burns them. At the end of the day, this is freedom. People should be able to drive whatever they want. It's freedom. You know what I mean? And sometimes you see a ugly looking Kia. Well, that doesn't bother me that someone is driving a ugly looking Kia. I'm not gonna go ahead and key the Kia or burn it. Why do they do that to Tesla? Like, what? This is entirely ridiculous. The market is so ridiculous right now. Other stocks that are up nicely today. Let's move on. Verizon and AT&T, they're up nicely today. These stocks are safe. Never mind that whenever any of these stocks cuts their dividend by even 10-20%, the stock dumps 50% because the dividend's been cut and the shareholder base has to move. Never mind. These stocks are amazing. AT&T return 4% over the past 30 years, right? Think about that. Monetary inflation is 3 times that, more than 3 times that. Verizon, almost a 7%. Verizon, monetary inflation 2.5 times. Well, 2.1, 2.2 times that. No risk of disruption whatsoever, right? That's why the market loves them. Satellite internet is definitely never going to be a thing. iPhones are definitely not shipping with a feature that allows them to connect to satellite. That's never ever going to be a thing. And there is no worry about paying back $145 billion of debt for AT&T and $171 billion of debt for Verizon. And there's no problem about that. It's not like losing just 10% of the customers could lead to a house of cards literally collapsing, because when you have so much debt, right, you don't need to lose 50% of your customers to be in trouble. When you have this much debt, losing just a tad of your customers, 5-10% of a base, can lead to big troubles. Everything's fine, guys. This is entirely fine. Satellite internet is never gonna be a thing. And I could be talking about ASTS, right? I don't need to be talking about Starlink, but of course the company I'm thinking about is Starlink. But you have Eutelsat in Europe, right? That's the same story. Eutelsat is up something insane in Europe because they're saying, oh, wait a minute, satellite internet may actually be a thing. Satellite communication may actually be a thing. We actually don't need to have towers everywhere. Oh, and you might find, I forgot to put it, you might find this funny, American Tower Corp was up today, up nicely. American Tower Corp, cell phone towers, while we have tens and tens of thousands of satellites being added in the sky for telecommunications. Anyways, you don't have to worry about that, right? Mr. Market, I'm going to move on now to discuss Bitcoin. And Bitcoin doesn't seem to be answering to Mr. Market. Bitcoin may be answering to Mr. Crypto or Mr. whoever, I don't know. Or, Mr. Logical, Mr. Hard Money. Anyways, the point is I'm very proud of Bitcoin. Very, very proud of Bitcoin. I've been following this asset since 2015, selling it at 250, thinking I was really smart to sell it at 250, only to get back in when it was thousands of dollars a coin. Anyways, the point is, I would argue that Bitcoin, for example, Bitcoin's news with the Bitcoin reserve was as good to Bitcoin as, say, the robotaxi news for Tesla Rise, right? Tesla robotaxi, we've been waiting for this for 7 years. Bitcoin and the US Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, Bitcoiners have been waiting for this for more than 7 years, maybe 10 years. Pick up any book on Bitcoin, of which I've read so many. This is always the stage they talk about. Bitcoin reserve, nobody could have dreamed, right, of that happening to the USA. Anyways, Bitcoin's doing well. I'm proud of Bitcoin. If you look at the performance of Bitcoin in this era of crash, in this 2024 crash, just like 22 and 20, in this era of crash, Bitcoin is up 16% since the election, right? Nasdaq is down minus 4% since the election. So Bitcoin is outperforming the Nasdaq by 20%. Imagine that. And the S&P since the election is down 3% since the election. So Bitcoin is outperforming the S&P, by 19%. So this is quite outstanding. Is Bitcoin becoming risk off? Why is Bitcoin doing so much better? Well, perhaps because the flows into Bitcoin do not depend on a crazy market, i.e. the Nasdaq and the risk off market of the US. It depends on all of the financial markets of the world, and it depends on the crypto economy, which is apparently, when I look at this, much more stable now than the crazy moves that we get into the Nasdaq, and these derivatives are certainly not helping these crazy movements. This news is certainly not helping proxies. The proxies are doing worse. And I think the reason why the proxies are doing worse is because, and this is a Grok generated picture, by the way. Notice how AI is getting better and better by the day. This is right. This is your CEO of your typical Bitcoin proxy. You have one hand in decentralized finance, one hand in finance 2.0, one hand in the blockchain finance, and you have another hand in TradFi. And that bucket, the TradFi bucket, is weighing down these stocks. These stocks are down because of TradFi. They're not down because of DeFi, because I just showed you decentralized finance, Bitcoin, the performance that it is having. It is having a great performance relative to what we see in the Nasdaq and in the regular market. And by the way, that performance is being held up by the Bitcoin performance, because these proxies are still not as cheap as they were 2 weeks ago. You may remember Microstrategy was under 230. The Bitcoin NAV was lower to Microstrategy in the 1.46, as low as 1.46. Mara fell as low as 1.08. So these proxies are actually holding up pretty well, even though it doesn't feel like it, right? It's all relative. And it's relative because when you look at MicroStrategy since the election is up 5%. Like I said, these stocks have one hand in decentralized finance, i.e. Bitcoin, which is holding up, still up 16% since the election. But unfortunately, they have that other hand in TradFi. And this is, the whole buzz, the whole news about Coin, creating the Coin token and listing the ownership of Coinbase on blockchain rails, leading potentially to less volatility. What if MicroStrategy was simply listed on blockchain rails instead of being listed on traditional finance rails? I think it would be better, and I think eventually all companies will be listed 24/7 on blockchain rails. Let's finish up. Is the week going to get worse? That's probably the big question, right? So the Nasdaq is way oversold. It was oversold 3 weeks ago. It was oversold 5 weeks ago. I can't imagine how oversold it is. If you're into technical analysis, feel free to look at the RSI. It is way, way, way oversold right now, which, market commentators will tell you we're due for a technical correction. Could it keep going down? Yes, but not forever. Markets can't go down forever. Money on the sideline at some point steps in. The Fed at some point gets upset with the dysfunction in the financial system and drops rate. I could have pulled up the rate expectations, and you'll see that they are trending favorably when you see this. We have a busy week coming with a lot of potentially either good news or bad news. But if tomorrow job openings, if the CPI especially comes in favorably, i.e. the CPI is low, this could be seen as good news. We have a lot of events of the week. I would have never thought that Monday would be the most volatile day. I would have thought the other days would be more volatile, reacting to the macro. But anyways, like I said, I don't really know where the market is going. I can't know. I will tell you the first step, and these are my steps to sleep well at night. The first point is, make sure you're not leveraged, or very, very, very little. Under 10% of margin is like the max I'm willing to go. Make sure you don't have a risk of being liquidated. And if you are not leveraged, if you're not at risk of liquidated, there's really two scenarios. One scenario where you still have cash. Well, if you still have cash, you're out of luck. You still have to look at this nonsense, because if you're DCAing, I don't know if you're DCAing every month, every week, every day. I tend to do it every day. If you still have cash, well, you still have to open the broker app and buy the stock and see the stock in the red. And it's annoying, but if you have cash, now is not the moment to stop the DCA. No financial advice, but that's my view. Now, if you have no risk of being liquidated, and there's no cash, and you have to wait until next month until your monthly allowance of investment of DCA comes, then why even look at the account? Why even look at the account? Might as well not look at the account, Shut off the account, turn off the app, go in a park, go on vacation. That's my type of non-financial advice. Just turn off the app. Remember prospect theory, the basics of investing. When you see your app say in the red $1,000, let's say you're down $1,000 on a stock, the pain of seeing minus 1,000 is twice as painful as seeing plus 1,000. We get for an equal gain and an equal loss, we get much more miserable looking at the loss than we do looking at the gain. In fact, in psychology, people even overlook the gain. They barely look at it. They take it for granted. But a minor loss hurts. And so when you see the stock moving so starkly to the downside, these losses hurt to look at. So if you don't have to look at it, because A, you don't have a YouTube channel, or B, you don't have cash, and you don't have any risk to manage leverage or anything like that, just shut off the app. That's what I would do. I'm not gonna do that anymore because now I have YouTube and so I make videos now. But anyways, okay. Hopefully this was helpful. This was not investment advice, not financial advice. This is just entertainment. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.